Looking for better enterprise alignment across your teams, programs, and portfolios? With Atlassian Jira Align, get the end-to-end visibility your organization needs to reach enterprise agility. Seamlessly connect your strategy to your technical execution. Get real-time visibility into your aggregated data. Align every team to your enterprise strategic goals. Let us bring the value of Jira Align to you.
Hey everyone, I'm Chase Wilson, the founding marketer and original team member of Jira Work Management, the newest Jira product from Atlassian. Thanks for joining my talk today about what happened when we turned customers into design partners. Start off, and I'm sure it's a bit of a stretch, but can any of you remember a time when Jira was just pure frustration? For me, it was earlier this month when I changed a workflow status for an April Fool's joke to spices, and suddenly 45 other projects had spices as a column name. So I thought about including a poll here, but let's be honest, polls aren't that interesting when everyone has the same answer. If you've never been frustrated by Jira, please email me so we can do a case study. But regardless, our story begins, as many do, with a group of Jira users. Today, I'm going to start by giving you an insider's look into how we came up with and created Jira Work Management, which is a new way for business teams to collaborate together. We found we had a unique problem at Atlassian, which is that customers were taking tools we built for software and IT teams and were extending them for the rest of their organization. From a company perspective, this is a fantastic problem to have. Any company I'd ever start would be an awesome success if my customers were the ones who were finding new ways to use my product. From a customer satisfaction perspective, however, we kept getting more and more feedback that essentially said spreadsheets are just so much easier. So we pulled the numbers and found that a huge percentage of Jira users are actually on business teams already. Teams like marketing, HR, finance, design, operations, sales, et cetera, et cetera. What wasn't that surprising was that every other internal Atlassian team was already using Jira to manage their work today. The foundation of Jira turned out to be a great solution for teams of all sorts. This Jira foundation, though, that I'm referring to, is usually what's beneath the surface. The powerful workflows and permissions, issue linking and customizability, plus our recent additions like advanced roadmaps for portfolio management and, of course, automation. Frankly, there aren't a lot of tools that even come close to having the power of Jira. And if they do, knowing how to code is usually a requirement for setting them up. So we began by assuming this power is only useful if it's accessible to business teams. What's an epic? What's an issue? Why can't I change my board column names? Mean I can't drag a task back to to-do from in progress? So I was brought in as a member of the founding Jira for Business team to better understand business users, their needs, and how to reach them with marketing. So we started from the beginning. We already have Jira Core, some said. What went wrong there? The real indication that something was wrong was that even our internal teams didn't really know what it was or why they should use it. Ultimately, a recent article from the Jira Guy pretty much summed it up. Jira software gives you Kanban and sprint boards. Jira Service Management gives you a portal to interact with your users. And Jira Core, I don't know, lets you create issues, I guess. But true enough, as we talked to endless admins, we found that while Jira Core was in fact more simple than Jira software, focusing purely on that simplicity was its downfall. It didn't have enough unique functionality to make it a real contender compared to Jira software, or even market alternatives. We found that admins would rather explain all the technical nuances of Jira software than to just use Jira Core, which is not great. So just a simpler experience wasn't the answer. Instead, we needed to deliver a full-powered application built specifically for business teams. So we got down to work. One product manager, one designer, one engineer, and one marketer, all on Zoom, meeting each other for the first time during a global pandemic with only 2 hours of time overlap during the day. It was this perfect storm of the exact same problems that you have and that our customers have. So we also used Jira Core exclusively the entire time. And yes, even our engineering teams use that in the future. User research seemed like the obvious first step. So we all jumped in and started interviewing end users and admins from all over the globe. The important part here is that everyone interviewed users and brought back their learnings. The knowledge wasn't relegated to just one person. Of course, this might sound a little counterintuitive. Shouldn't there just be one person who has the overall big picture and operates as the source of truth? We found out that this actually overloaded one person and also made our discussions far less focused on teamwork and more focused on just information dumps to figure out what had happened that week. So essentially, now everyone was a peer. Every team member had different specialties, and leaning into those differences was better for surfacing different shades of insight. Armed with those insights, we were ready to actually get started building prototypes. Now, Atlassian typically does a lot of prototype testing before building, which is great. The overall flow starts to look something like this for a new product or feature release. You can see we do a great job of designing and iterating on the feature before we build it, which is perfect, right? Lean practices, agile ways of working, et cetera, et cetera. This time around, though, we tried something different. Enter Point A, the new internal program at Atlassian for the development and ideation of new products. So, Point A is comprised of about 5 stages: wonder, explore, make, impact, and scale. In wonder, we decided we wanted to build a product for business teams, and we started making the critical decisions for the foundation of what we would or would not actually build. In explore, we made prototypes, we tested them, we validated them, and then we had them approved. And then came make, which is where the actual development happened and when our engineers joined the team. And with the launch of Jira Work Management, we'll officially be in the impact stage. It's the complicated journey within these phases that's important and what I'll walk you through today. So back to the standard Atlassian building process. What's wrong with it? Well, honestly, it's not necessarily that bad, and it's probably about the best practice in the industry. But if you look closely at the diagram, you'll see an odd assumption, which is that the bottom foundation stays constant. There's this layer of domain knowledge that stays consistent over time. But let's be real. I bet if you were trying to be accurate, it would look something like this. You don't know much to start, you learn a lot, and then that knowledge is slowly forgotten over time as you build. You release the beta, get a lot of good feedback, but then you find it's hard to justify spending another 3 to 6 months to build solutions to that feedback before the launch. So you start to say things like, this is a pretty good MVP, we can just make those changes after launch, or let's keep an eye on that feedback. If lots of users start asking for it, we can prioritize it higher. There's nothing actually inherently wrong with those thoughts, but let me show you how this can go badly quickly. What we found is that if we stop talking to users every day, we almost prioritize things correctly. A small tweak here, a UX adjustment there, choosing to build one feature in lieu of another. But a few wrongs start to compound over time. The day-to-day user interaction turned out to be very different from our well-researched prototype, and now weeks of minor annoyances for those users suddenly became a much larger problem. And once you arrive at the beta release and actually give those features to users, you start to learn things quickly from users, but you only have so much time to correct. And it might even be just a bunch of small tweaks, but even those add up, especially since your team probably already has other priorities. So as users explore your product at scale, they actually begin to ask for new things that weren't in your original prototype, and then the distance between where you are and where your users want you to be continues to grow. We thought there had to be a better way to end up closer to our product that the customers actually wanted. So this is how we began to build with and not for our customers. To achieve customer centricity, we developed 3 primary parts of a feedback framework. Those were design sprints, a design partners program, and a waitlist. Design sprints more or less looked like this as we built our prototype during the explore phase that I mentioned earlier. On Monday, there was lots of discussion about what features we would review that week, and this was usually at the level of grouping, filtering, and sorting, or forms. On Tuesday, everyone came in with solution ideas, and then we sparred those to come up with the winner. On Wednesday, our designer created wireframe mockups and gave feedback for tweaks. And then on Thursday, our designer made these really beautiful, fully working, high fidelity prototypes that we would actually show off to our customers. On Friday, that testing began, and then we compiled the insights and learnings. We followed this process for about 6 weeks for 6 separate design sprints until we felt really confident in the final prototype. It honestly went incredibly smoothly, and the whole team was really jazzed about what we had created together. The C-suite was excited, our company was excited, and our users were actually really excited. So we moved on to the next phase, which is make. Our all-star engineering team joined and we started building. And then we had another round of user interviews. We were super excited to show off what we had built, but the first set of interviews was not quite what we had expected. We got on the Zoom calls and suddenly realized it'd actually been a few weeks since we'd talked to partners X, Y, and Z. And this felt pretty weird after about 3 months of talking to customers constantly before this. So when we finally introduced our new feature and said, here it is, what do you think? We heard, this is awesome. And the whole team nodded and smiled and thought that we were crushing it. But right after that, we heard, well, we can't really use this feature without X. Those nods and smiles kind of went away from us. And we said, don't worry, it's on the roadmap. It'll be done in a few weeks. They essentially said back to us, great, I'm excited to use it once that's live. This is not an ideal response for something that we thought would be a marquee new feature. We had already built about 70% of the list view prototype, but even that wasn't enough. It was pretty much a complete swing and a miss. And it turned out if we had built some of those later prioritized features first, customers would have adopted it now, and we'd already be collecting insights. And this was the beginning of us starting to make choices incorrectly. So we built a design partner framework. Our design partner program roughly operated in 2-week cycles. Every one of our original 4 team members was assigned to various customers and built relationships with them over the coming months. Each person set up their own schedule for interviews, and each week we all got together to go through those learnings. To top it all off, we recruited from both internal and external teams of all types for a wide range of feedback, both formal and informal. I got more than a couple pings on Slack about our list view when we deployed it to our teams without sorting, filtering, or ranking. There's nothing quite like a static list to make it hard to get work done. We would build new features for about a week and a half, then deploy those features for our team's instance. We would build new features for about a week to a week and a half, and then deploy those features for our team's instance. We made changes based around our own pain points, then interviewed our design partners to get their thoughts. That feedback came back. Then we made tweaks in the remaining time in the sprint, deployed said features for our design partners, and then moved on to the next sprint. Rinse and repeat for about 5 months while we built what would eventually be called Jira Work Management. And yes, you heard that right. We built Jira Work Management on a code base full of dependencies in 5 months through this process. Eventually, we found our product just wasn't right for some of our design partners as well, which did lead to a few customers dropping out of the design partner program. But just to note, this is completely fine. We were building with certain teams in mind, and the product we were building isn't and shouldn't be built for every possible customer and use case. And now for the last milestone, which is the waitlist. If you're a longtime fan of Atlassian, you'll know that we traditionally widely announce and launch products at the same moment, usually at large events like this one. This allows us to take advantage of a larger stage for press announcements and does give teams a really clear deadline for product delivery. But this time around, we decided to instead set up a waitlist and announce Jira Work Management to our customers widely before it was actually available to them. And the result of this was massive. I can't say specific numbers, but thousands and thousands of companies, both big and small, signed up for this waitlist. And I am a marketer, so I will not finish off this talk without showing off a few of the logos. Companies from more industries than I ever would have imagined signed up to get a chance to give their business teams this new product, which is a product part of a Jira brand, often synonymous with tech and technical teams. The list included both my landlord and the city I lived in, so it was pretty cool to see the impact that this product was going to have on even my world. And even better than this validation was that we got really early signals around which features were exciting which features needed way more work, and how to craft a much more clear marketing message. We had a couple of months between the announcement and the actual launch of Jira Work Management, which just happened today, and we used this time to make tweaks before the big day. Now, it was really tempting to let every company off of the list, but we knew we just didn't have enough time to launch while also giving those thousands of beta customers the attention that they deserve. So we started off slowly with only letting Atlassian partners off the list, and then we let off community leaders who were interested. Finally, we reached out directly to some of the larger or more enthusiastic companies who had signed up on the waitlist. The feedback resulted in direct changes to the product so that what you see today is even better than it was back then. So at this point, I've walked you through some of our customer feedback process and rationale for why we took that approach. And you may have already picked up on this, but there was one more variable that we added to this process, which was marketing. And to be honest, you might be wondering why I'm the one giving this talk. Why marketing? Is it worth the headcount cost to include marketing early on? Frankly, it might not always be, but we knew from the beginning that we had an identity problem to overcome. Jira is incredibly popular, not always incredibly well liked, and particularly with non-technical teams. So changing this perception is going to be really critical to the success of our team. We started from day one with a new quad team format instead of the traditional triad of product, engineering, and design. As a result, we ended up prioritizing feature development based around a slightly different set of criteria than usual. First was customer feedback and preferences. The second was technical viability. And the third was market viability. We already knew that as a small, agile team, it was going to be really hard to build everything in our prototype. And since we were pivoting often due to this really fast framework of feedback, we had to cut back our scope here and there. So we built while learning how the market and our customers would perceive the features as well as use them. One example of this was the decision to build project background colors. This wasn't a feature that was pointed out in the prototype sessions as really anything other than a delighter. But after talking to end users a lot, we found that the visual differentiation actually helped to give the perception of Jira Work Management a really fresh start. So it no longer looked quite like the Jira you're used to, and this was really positive. Even internally, it's handy to instantly know when you're in a Jira Work Management project versus Jira Software or Jira Service Management. A more impactful example of this is our timeline feature. Early on, it looked like timeline was not going to be built in time for launch. There were a lot of small changes and nuances that we needed to adapt roadmaps in Jira Software for actual true business team usage. But all of my interviews and market analysis showed that timeline was going to be massive for how the product was perceived by potential customers. During those initial prototype interviews, it got less attention than the new list view, but call after call with potential customers showed that timeline was a must-have for adopting our product. So the result of that is that timeline is widely available today. Now, did the shift from a triad to a quad have any other big effects? It is a strong belief of mine that effective product marketers generally have at least three things in common, and being on the team from day one helped with all three. The first is a trusting relationship with your product manager. Not only did I build a great relationship with our head of product, Ron Levy, but today I would feel fully comfortable with him giving an entire presentation on our marketing strategy and the tactics we took towards launch. Similarly, I'm here speaking today in part about our product strategy. Second is a deep product understanding. And because I was in practically every meeting for the 6 months that we were doing this project, I was involved in deciding which trade-offs needed to exist and why. So this helped me go far beyond the traditionally demo-worthy product knowledge. And I even know where and why we use certain technology, which product components have dependencies on which internal teams, and even which parts of the product have public Jira Cloud API endpoints. This has been a huge advantage that connects to the next concept, which is domain knowledge of your market and competitors. It's honestly very easy to collect a list of competitors and to compare their features to your product. I think this is probably one of the first things I did after joining the team. The next level down is understanding how the features actually function to find the differences between them and highlight those examples. Our timeline feature, it's somewhat of a given for Jira feature users that you should be able to visualize dependencies on the timeline view. However, this isn't actually that common amongst our competitors. And a step even further is that you can customize the types and names of those dependencies. So if you're blocked by marketing, you can make that a custom dependency name for better reporting. Plus, how many tasks can the timeline show at once? Is virtualization implemented? At what scale is the performance reduced? All of these things are really important to know when you're marketing a product. And at a company like Atlassian, it's also important to understand what goes beyond your product. Which product shares the common editor component? How does timeline in Jira Work Management differ from roadmaps in Jira Software? How are our forms different than the service portal for Jira Service Management? Sometimes it's really tricky to navigate these waters, and being on the team from the beginning really helps with this. But it did not hurt that I was the only member of the team who was actually in the business group that we were targeting. So at this point, I've talked through 3 foundational concepts today. Our product creation process and the key phases within it, specifically explore, make, and impact. I've also talked about our new feedback framework that includes design sprints, design partners, and a waitlist. And turning the triad into the quad by including marketing as part of the product ideation team. What were some of the ultimate benefits of these approaches? To start, we were faster and we were more confident about our product delivery. We had less team disagreements, and we were essentially just mouthpieces for our customers. Over time, we stopped coming in with opinions to the team and started coming in with proof points. I still remember one of the biggest disagreements the team ever had was my customer thinks this versus your customer thinks that. And I think that this is a pretty good place to get into. We also spent way less time coming up with marketing. Customers told me what they wanted directly. I didn't need to hypothesize or hear from product and design what was most important. And I'll always remember the day that I realized I'll never have to learn how to demo this product since I helped build it from day one. We also have much better balanced teamwork. Everyone respects one another on the team and truly values the other's opinions. And we pretty much have their Zoom body language memorized by now, so we always know when someone wants to talk. The team goes really far out of their way to get things done right, and every team member puts the health and balance of the others first and reminds each other if they're going too far. I'm guilty of this very often. It's a team of people who are used to working in startups, so it's really easy to get back into bad habits. And customers bring us all together and honestly became a part of the team. Everyone on the team knows our design partners by first and last name, even if they've never spoken with them before. It also helped us deliver a better product for everyone. We like the product. Customers like the product. We like how much our customers like the product. And we like how much little time we wasted while we were building the product. Of course, we didn't do everything perfectly. And so if we could go back and change things, we would have brought in a dedicated data analyst much earlier on. All 4 of the core team members knew SQL and all the main BI or analytics tools, so we really were not worried about data analysis, but turns out that it takes much more dedicated headspace than we had actually expected. And we could probably spend even less time setting up initial processes. Luckily, our team from the very beginning was really bought in on lean ideals, so we were able to change things quickly as they stopped working for the team, but even setting up those initial processes to start wasn't always worth the time. Now, I have one more quick segment today, and that's about Jira Work Management. I've said the name a good amount, but how we actually use the product internally might be a mystery. So I'm going to walk you through a couple ways that Atlassian uses this product internally and why. I also had a high stakes interaction the other day on Hacker News with someone who said that they would Venmo me $100 if I could prove their teams actually use Jira internally. So if you're watching, specialist, here's where I take the first step towards winning that bet, and hopefully doxing myself turns out to be worth it. So Jira Work Management is already being used by these types of teams today at Atlassian. There's marketing, finance, HR, operations, legal, design. So I'm going to briefly walk you through 2 specific departments, marketing and finance. While building Jira Work Management for marketing teams, I felt that I had a pretty good domain understanding as a marketer myself, but it was really important that we nailed the user experience for marketers beyond what kind of work I do. So we brought in our internal teams from the very beginning. Our email operations team uses Jira Work Management to initiate and track projects for improving the internal email processes responsible for hundreds of emails every month. Our migrations marketing team uses Jira Work Management to track assets and work streams that help customers moving to the cloud. The marketers for Point A products use Jira Work Management for pretty much everything. Having every team on Jira makes it really easy for all of these teams to collaborate with each other. All of these team processes are actually very light on formal structure and focus more on unlocking new ways of working together. So we create dependencies between tasks across projects. We consolidate work from across every product on Jira via custom filters. And we utilize advanced roadmaps to show how each work stream fits together as part of one whole. In comparison to marketing, finance has an entirely different way of working, and it's a very mission critical one at that. Our team didn't have as much domain knowledge about how finance teams work at companies larger than a startup, so our internal finance teams rushed to help. This year, our finance team has just migrated from self-hosted Jira software to cloud-hosted Jira Work Management. And while there are still dependencies on other teams, the month-end close process in particular is fairly consistent from the month to month. Also different than marketing, we found that there are clear permissions requirements and really strict workflows to ensure that there's audit compliance at the end of the year. For example, during the annual audit, any task that remains open will be examined and require an explanation of, was this ever completed? If so, when? Why wasn't it marked as such? So the structure of Jira makes the audit process much more simple. And automation ensures that team members are notified as soon as tasks have been open for too long. Automation also replicates the same tasks every month and automatically assigns due dates and assignees to keep the finance team focused on the work that matters. And with that, I'll leave you today with 2 links to learn more about Jira Work Management and the Point A program that we're a part of. It's been a fast, pivot-heavy journey, but following the processes I went through today can make it easier to launch new products at companies of any size and to really bring customers into the team itself that you're working on. Cheers, and enjoy the rest of the Team 21 talks today. Thank you so much for attending.